The next day, I checked the video on my phone. Most of it was useless. Just darkness and the sound of my footsteps. Until the end. Right before I started running, the camera had briefly turned behind me. And for a split second, something appeared in the frame. It was low to the ground. Its shape was wrong. And it was moving toward me. Fast. I stared at that frame for a long time. Then I deleted the video. Because I know one thing now. That factory is not empty. I'm Alvin, and this is Common Ground Horror. I'd heard about that factory for years, but I never really paid attention to it. It sat on the edge of town, far enough that people didn't pass by it unless they had a reason to. It had shut down a long time ago, after some kind of accident. But no one ever gave a clear answer about what actually happened there. Some people said it was financial problems. Others said workers got hurt. Either way, the place had been left to rot. One evening, I decided to go there. I told myself it was just curiosity. I had explored abandoned places before. Old houses, empty warehouses, a few schools. So I didn't expect anything unusual. I went alone, which in hindsight was probably my first mistake. By the time I reached the factory, the sun had almost set. The building looked massive, much bigger than it seemed from the road. The walls were stained dark from years of weather. Most of the windows were broken. Parts of the roof looked like they were about to collapse. The gate at the front was locked with a heavy chain, but the fence on the side had a large opening, like someone had forced their way in, cut through the metal, and bent back. That should have been a warning. As soon as I stepped inside the fence, everything felt off. The air was still, heavier somehow. There was a faint metallic smell mixed with something damp, like rust and old water. Even the sounds from outside seemed to disappear. Cars, birds, wind. All of it just gone. It was like stepping into a different place entirely. I turned on my flashlight and entered through a wide loading area. The floor was covered in dust and scattered debris. Old crates were stacked against the walls, some broken open. There were large machines everywhere, most of them silent and covered in dirt. But a few looked oddly untouched, like someone had been using them recently. I started walking deeper inside, trying to stay calm. My footsteps echoed louder than they should have. Every small sound felt amplified. The creak of the floor, the shift of debris under my feet. I kept telling myself it was normal, just an empty building, nothing more. After a few minutes, I noticed something strange. There were marks on the floor that didn't match the rest of the dust. They looked like something had been dragged. Recently. The lines were not old. They were too clear, too fresh. I crouched down to get a better look, and that's when I heard the first sound. A faint metallic noise. Soft. Almost like something lightly tapping against metal. Somewhere far inside the factory. I froze and listened carefully. For a moment, it stopped. Then, it came again. This time, slightly louder. It didn't sound random. It sounded like movement. Deliberate. I stood there for a while, trying to convince myself it was just something falling or shifting. Old buildings make noises all the time. That's what I told myself. But deep down, I knew that wasn't it. I should have left right then. Instead, I followed the sound. The deeper I went, the darker it got. My flashlight only showed a small part of what was ahead, leaving the rest in complete darkness. The machines became larger, closer together, forming narrow paths between them. It felt like walking through a maze. The sound continued, slow and uneven. Sometimes it would stop completely, then start again from a different direction. It was as if whatever was making it was moving, circling. That's when I started feeling it. That feeling of being watched. I stopped walking and turned around slowly. There was nothing there. Just rows of machines and shadows stretching into the darkness. But the feeling didn't go away. If anything, it got stronger. I kept moving, faster now. I wanted to find the source of the sound and leave. That was the plan. Then I reached a large open section in the center of the factory. The ceiling was higher there. A few broken skylights let in faint light from outside, just enough to make out shapes without relying completely on my flashlight. That's when I saw it. Movement. At first, it was just a shift in the corner of my eye, something moving between two machines. I turned my head quickly, but there was nothing there. I stood still, holding my breath. Then it happened again. This time, I saw it clearly. Something moved. Not fast, not sudden, just a slow movement, like something pulling back into the darkness. I raised my flashlight and pointed it in that direction. The beam shook slightly in my hand, but there was nothing there. No person, no animal, nothing I could explain. My heart started racing. I took a step back. Then I heard something behind me. A dragging sound, slow and uneven, like something being pulled across the floor. I turned around instantly and shined my light. But again, nothing. At that point, I knew I needed to leave. I started walking back the way I came, trying not to panic. But the sounds followed me. Every few seconds, I could hear movement from a different direction. It wasn't staying in one place. It was circling me. I kept walking faster, my flashlight beam bouncing wildly as I moved. Then I made the mistake of stopping. The moment I stopped, everything went silent. Completely silent. For a few seconds, there was nothing. No tapping, no dragging, no movement. Just silence. Then, something moved right in front of me. Close. Too close. I didn't see details. I didn't see a face. But I saw something shift. A shape. Low to the ground. Something that shouldn't be there. That was enough. I ran. I didn't think. I didn't look back. I just ran. The sounds behind me got louder, faster, like something was chasing me through the machines. I could hear metal hitting metal, something dragging, something moving quickly through the dark, keeping pace with me. I almost fell twice. My foot caught on debris. My shoulder hit a machine. But I kept going. I didn't dare stop. Finally, I saw the opening in the fence. the faint light from outside. I ran straight through it and didn't stop until I reached my car. I got inside, locked the doors, and sat there breathing heavily, trying to calm down. For a moment, everything was quiet again. Normal. I told myself I'd panicked, that I'd let fear get to me. Then I looked up. The factory stood in front of me, dark and still. But one of the windows was not empty. Something was there, standing behind the broken glass, watching me. I drove away immediately. I didn't wait. I didn't try to look closer. I just left. The entire drive home, I tried to rationalize what had happened. Fear does things to your mind, makes you see things that aren't there, hear things that don't exist. That's what I told myself. It was dark, I was alone, I was scared. Of course I imagined things, but the next day I remembered something. I'd been recording on my phone. Not the whole time, just parts of it. Clips here and there as I walked through the factory. I pulled up the footage. Most of it was useless, just darkness, the sound of my footsteps, my breathing, the beam of my flashlight catching random parts of machines and walls. Nothing interesting. Until the end. Right before I started running, the camera had briefly turned behind me. I must have swung around quickly and the phone caught it. The footage was shaky, dark, hard to see. But I could make out the area behind me. The machines, the shadows. And then I saw it. For a split second, something appeared in the frame. It was low to the ground, lower than a person would be. Its shape was wrong. It wasn't human. It wasn't an animal. Just wrong. And it was moving toward me. Fast. The video cut off right after that. Just black screen. I replayed it 3 times. Each time I saw the same thing. Something that shouldn't exist. Something that had been chasing me. I sat there staring at that frozen frame, at the shape, at the wrongness of it. Then I deleted the video. I didn't want it on my phone. I didn't want to see it again. And I didn't want anyone else to see it either. Because I knew no one would believe me. They'd say it was a shadow, a trick of the light, motion blur. But I know what I saw. I was there. And that thing was real. I haven't gone back to that factory since, and I never will. I don't care what's in there. I don't care what it was. I just know one thing for certain. That factory is not empty. There's something inside. Something that moves through the darkness. Something that watches. Something that chases. And whatever it is, it's still there. Waiting. For the next person who makes the same mistake I did. The mistake of going inside. If you've lived through a nightmare you can't explain, I want to hear it. Send your stories to commongroundhorror@gmail.com to be featured on the channel. This has been Alvin for Common Ground Horror. Until next time, sleep well, if you can.